Welcome back, folks. Mac T here, and I'm going to do an antifreeze change without a machine. I'm going to go down below and we're going to drain the radiator and coolant system, and then of course I will then change the thermostat and then refill the system. I'm going to show you where the drain is for the radiator, and then of course I'm going to replace it with this peak antifreeze. It is of course 50/50 pre-diluted, ready to go, and it is a long life, extended life antifreeze. So we're just going to go with that. It's the green stuff, so going to go ahead, change it, and go from there. I got 60,000 plus miles, or about 15-16 months or so on this antifreeze, so it's time to change it because we want our water pump to live longer. So we want to change our fluid more often to help keep everything from corroding and causing water pump failures. And this is my attempt to make sure we can stave off that water pump issue. So we're going to go ahead and change it and follow along. And this time I'm not using a lift. I'm going to have to crawl under, and we're going to do it old school. Now, as you can see, first things first, I do have the jack that is underneath the frame of the vehicle. And I also have a jack stand because we're going to have to make sure that we're safe. So we want to make sure that it does not come down on us. I have light, so we're going to go ahead and go up underneath and start seeing where this drain is so we can get working on that. Another thing that we got to make sure we have is, of course, our drain pan for our antifreeze. And this will hold at least 2-3 gallons of antifreeze. So you have that handy because you're going to need it. Alrighty, folks, right down here, this plastic nut is what we want to take and remove. And of course, it's a 19 millimeter, so you either get a wrench in there or get a socket. And in this case, I have opted for a socket, and I'm going to try to weasel my way in there on it. Wrench might be easier, but it turned really easy, okay? So it didn't take very much at all to actually remove it. So I get that done like so. Then you reach your hand in there and you can actually turn this nut with your fingers. So we get it undone. And now I got to make sure that I'm out of the way and back out of the way and get my pan up underneath here. Now keep in mind, this is all difficult. Got the pan under there, and we just take and let the antifreeze coolant come out. You can just keep in mind it makes a big mess, and it goes everywhere. I'm telling you, it goes everywhere. It's even going down over here. It's making a big mess everywhere. So that's how it works. We'll let this drain out for a while and see where it goes. But that's just cold, folks. It is cold, okay? And I was running the engine. So I'm thinking the thermostat needs to be replaced here, and we'll go from there. I've taken and pulled that little plastic nut out a little bit, and it is somehow retained in the radiator. So once you undo it, it only comes out so far. It allows the fluid to come out, and then you just merely just tighten it back up. It does not pull out, so do not try to pull it out. You'll break it, and you don't want to break it. So case in point, just let it drain once you release it. And it takes a little bit of time. It comes out slowly. So I'm going to let this drain for a while until we stop getting drips, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull the air cooler, or pull the air intake off so I can access the thermostat, and I'm going to change the thermostat. Now again, I'm using a Carquest thermostat, and when you do buy a thermostat, make sure that you do go through it. This is the part number. You guys can see that. That's the part number for the Carquest thermostat. It's 14138, and of course you do, when you buy it, want to make sure you go through and make sure it has this little gasket, folks, this little O-ring gasket. Got to make sure that's in there. And then of course the thermostat itself, you want to make sure that you have that. So all comes in there. We're going to go ahead and change that thermostat out. It has over 172,000 miles on it, so why not do it when you're changing the coolant with this many miles? Makes sense. And we'll go ahead and get this done after this. Just undo the Maf sensor, pull this Christmas tree out, undo this, release the quick connect here. There we go. Now we use 8mm, of course, to remove the air intake. There we go. And we can go ahead and remove all this. Undo this little hose. And we can pull that off and set it to the side. Now we can get at this thermostat down here. And of course there's a bolt that's down below that we have to get at, and one up here. And they are 8mm. So we loosen that one, and then we get down on the other one on the bottom side. And we can get that one loosened. Not a whole lot of room, and remember I got this car jacked up too, so set that up where we don't lose it, and remember where it's at. I ended up taking the air box out to get myself a little bit more room to get up underneath here, and I'm going to get another tool. Well, after a little bit of struggle, we finally got this thing to release, and we can pull our thermostat out, and we can inspect it. Not doing too bad. And we want to look to see how it's aligned. We can go ahead and put this in, and again, this was at the bottom. Why it would be at the bottom, I don't know, but it is at the bottom, so that's how we're going to orientate it back, because that's how the factory installed it. So we'll go ahead, get her installed in here, situated so that it's down. Get the new gasket in there. Make sure the new gasket is seated in there properly. And then all we got to do is slide this back in, press it back in, put the screw back onto it, and we'll get the bottom one started, which, by the way, is hard to do. Nice and tight. Go under here, get this one. Make sure it's tight. Yep, just as tight as when I took it off. So, we got the thermostat and the gasket replaced. So now we're going to go ahead and make sure we got everything drained out, and of course refill the coolant, tighten up the plug at the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and fill her back up. Now, of course, what's working in the garage if you don't have a donut and coffee, right? Antifreeze, yeah. Good donut. Anyway, back to our antifreeze. Drained everything out of the gravity feed that I could get out of the engine block, which is not everything. And the radiator is empty, and the hoses and everything else was obviously empty when I changed the thermostat. So we know the upper part of the block and the radiator is empty. Heater core, whatever gravity feed I could get out of that, which probably nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add new antifreeze. Now, I'm going to fill that up, of course, through the reservoir, and then we're run the engine and everything else and add more as we need when the thermostat opens and everything else. But basically what's going to happen is the old stuff that's in the heater core and anything remaining in the block will mix with the new stuff and rejuvenate it. Okay, it's not a complete flush, it's not a complete removal where I would use distilled water and then add 100% concentrate antifreeze to the distilled water to make up for the change. Okay, so it's not a complete flush out of it all, but I am rejuvenating the antifreeze in that manner. Now keep in mind, I change it every 60,000 miles also, so it's sort of like your drain and fill transmission fluid change. You never get it all, but you get most of it. Okay, so keeping that in mind, we're going to go ahead and add the antifreeze coolant to it, and then of course go through that process. But I'm going to enjoy my donut and coffee first. Folks, we got that, so I can run my fingers back in there and just twist that thing right back in. Doesn't take much. There we go. Now we just tighten this plastic nut back up. Keep in mind it is plastic, so we're going to be real gentle on it. It was not on there that tight. That's about as tight as I'm going to make her. That's about as tight as it was on there. So that plastic drain valve is there, back on, and now we're going to go ahead and fill it back up. And of course we put this air intake all back together. Snaps back in. Then I got the hose here. Gotta remember everything, right? There we go, nice and tight. Put our quick connect for a breather back on. And don't forget the Maf sensor. That'd be a bad deal for you today. And we got it all back on, so now we can go ahead and add the coolant and of course get that taken care of. So we'll move our drain pan out of the way, and of course we'll jack the car back up. And we'll go ahead and pull this jack stand out. Everything else is out of the way. And we'll go ahead and let this edge down nice and gentle like. There we go. Well, this is of course the peak antifreeze and extended life. They did say that on the bottle that it is for all vehicles and will not, and I stress here, says will not void your vehicle's warranty. It's good to 34 degrees below zero Fahrenheit for those of us that are, of course, in that mode, but it is also the green antifreeze. So it has various inhibitors to it. So we're just going to go ahead and fill this thing up. Like I said, I think I removed a couple gallons. There we go. Now they got different antifreezes, coolants, whatever you want to call it, for various models and makes of vehicles. So you really got to pay attention to what you're buying. You know, Honda might have their own type. Ford recommends whatever. Nissan, BMW, they all talk about various types. Overseas coolant is different than the United States. But there's like 3 or 4 different types. There's an organic, it's called an OAT, O-A-T. I don't remember the exact part of it. That's a shorter life duration antifreeze, whereas this is not that type, and this is extended life. Now the extended life, I will state, the inhibitors take a little longer to latch onto the metals. It's like a timed release thing. So, you know, you put it in, it heats up, it gets used, it starts adhering and protecting the aluminum and metal surfaces to keep from wear. And that's why you want to have this, to keep your water pump from wearing. I'm beginning to develop some sort of thought pattern to water pump failures and coolant changes, folks. You can call me wrong on this, but after 550,000 miles or so, I have not had one water pump failure. Why? I change my coolant often, okay? You can go with my system, or you can run at 150,000, but I am seeing people that don't change their coolant end up with water pump failures. Improper oil maintenance, water pump failure. There's got to be some correlation there someplace, okay? Not saying that it's all their fault, but I think maintenance is the key. And changing your coolant often and changing your oil often will help keep that water pump running better and keep it from failing, okay? It's not for sure, and you can tell me, oh, Bill, you're full of it, but the fact is, I haven't had a water pump failure. I don't have any wood to knock on. Maybe it'll fail on me tomorrow. I don't know. But so far, I'm going to say the odds are with me on what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I don't have those failures. So we'll go ahead and add a little bit more coolant here. Let this thing settle out. I'll run it, and then we'll top her off, and we'll be done. As you can see, I've got it topped off over there. I'm going to go ahead and get it started up. Now I'm going to have to let it run a little bit. Now I'm going to tell you folks a little bit also about coolant. Coolant with a cap that works under pressure will boil at a higher temperature. Okay? When water and any other liquid is exposed to pressure, that pressure keeps it fluid, which means it doesn't turn to steam, evaporate off, and everything else. That is why your system is pressurized, to allow the water and everything to reach a higher temperature before boil. Okay? On the same token, vacuum. Vacuum will cause water to boil at below room temperature because water reacts to the vacuum and it wants to boil off its molecules. So if you put water under vacuum, you'll see vapor coming out and it starts bubbling and boiling. So pressure and vacuum affect fluids, and that's why they pressurize your cooling system to help allow higher temperatures without boil off. Little tidbit for you to understand why does it have to have a pressure cap on it, and then of course why does it overheat if the cap is no good. There's no leakage going on down in there, so we'll let this get warmed up and then we'll double check it. But remember, it's a 180 degree thermostat, so this engine has to get to 180 degrees. And right now the engine coolant temp is at 158 degrees and climbing. So got a few more degrees to go under idle in order to get this thing to 180 so that thermostat opens up. But I am using ForeScan software on my phone in order to monitor this. So we'll go ahead and just wait But otherwise, let's see. Looks like my fuel trims are doing good, and of course fuel tank pressures, everything's good. Cylinder head voltage is good, and my 1 to 14.7 ratio for fuel to air mixture is doing good. So fans aren't on yet, have not reached that temperature, so the fans will not be working. We'll just go ahead, monitor this, and wait. I know while we're waiting, I just wanted to verify with y'all that, as you can see, 5-wire upstream O2 sensor, folks. The downstreams are 4-wire. So I know I spoke to this before. This is the upstream, exactly where it's located. Pretty simple to reach, probably one of the easier ones. But the upstreams are 5-wire. But finally, the lower hose started to warm up at 192 degrees engine coolant temperature. The thermostat opened up and it started allowing the coolant to flow down through the radiator and recycle itself back through the engine. So I'm starting to see the fluid go up as the temperature is going up. Like I said, I probably overfilled it a bit. I'll take a little bit out to bring it down, but the cold line is way down there. So basically I'm going to let this run, make sure this hose is getting nice and toasty now, going through the radiator, make sure the fans turn on, and then of course we'll call it good because we got the heater core on and everything else drawing heat through there. So the whole system is cycling now. But again, 192 degrees is when the thermostat actually opened and started allowing the fluid to flow through it. And this is basically where I'm at right now. So we'll go ahead and see what it does with the fans turning on, and then we'll have verification. Now the coolant is of course now reaching a temperature of 203, and the fans are still not on. They won't turn on to like 210, 212, but coolant level is rising in the reservoir, and of course both hoses are now very warm and hot. So 205 degrees so far. We got about another 5 to 7 degrees to go before the fans turn on. And once we got the fans on, then we know our whole system is of course in operation, and we're good to go. But I'm putting out great heat on inside the car, so I know that the heater core is of course in operation, and there's no air bubbles or anything like that. So everything is cycling. Trying to see when these fans will turn on. We're at 212 degrees, so the fans should turn on. And the fans turn on. Both of them are on, as you can see. Running about, let's see, they are running 22%. Like I said, I'm thinking my fans are getting lazy on me. They're just not running real good. Now they're slowing down, and of course the temperature's going down to 210. So they don't stay on very long, just enough to cool things down. And as you can see, they're shutting down because it got it down below 208. I think a lot of it has to do with the outside ambient temperature the PCM's receiving and how hard and fast they have to run. But as you can see, the fans did cycle on, and of course here in the wintertime I haven't been seeing much more than that. But folks, this is our cooling system. As you can see, I got it overfilled just a little bit. I'll bring that down just a tad here as time goes, and make sure I got it filled up appropriately. Again, this is a coolant system drain and refill. It is not a flush, folks. I did not do a flush. Basically, I change mine every 60,000, add looked like about another gallon and a half of coolant to it. I'm sure the core has some, and a full flush would probably clean everything out. But again, I do mine very often, so I'm playing with the odds on that one by rejuvenation. Folks, Mac T here, and in a recap of everything else I did, when I did take everything off in doing it, one, you go down below, you undo that little nut. It's not on very tight, so be gentle on it and just do it. It does not remove. Remember that key point too. It just gets loose and allows everything to flow out. You will not empty the engine block, and the heater core will not be emptied. It'll just be a gravity drain of everything that is, of course, able to drain out. So the block and the heater core may have residual fluid from the old fluid. The only way to actually get that out is to do a flush, and then, of course, buy the concentrate. And then remember, do not use tap water. Use distilled water only. So that means you'd have to go to the store, buy yourself 2 or 3 gallons or whatever it's going to take of distilled water to run it through to flush it out and clean it out if that's what you're going to do, and then drain it again. It'll be a longer process, but all you're doing is repeating what I've already shown you. And then, of course, you add, after you drain that, then you add the concentrate onto it. Personally, I just like to do the premix. It's a lot easier. And then if you feel like it, just redo the process. Just get back underneath there, drain it again, and then refill. You'll have the same results. Twice would probably be sufficient, because that would be a full 3 gallons of change then, because it takes about 1.5 gallons from what I'm figuring just to do a regular drain and refill. So that means you probably have about another 1/2 gallon of coolant left in the reservoir, or left in the block and the heater core. Not much, so, because I think it's about 2 gallons or so. That being said, okay, I did show you how you can use your FORScan to monitor your temperatures to see when the thermostat opened. And the thermostat actually opened and allowed coolant to go through about 190 degrees or so. That, I guess is normal for it as far as that goes. But the heat was generated way before that, because the heater core goes through the engine and gets the heat circulated that way. So you will get heat before your thermostat actually kicks on to cool your radiator. So for engine heat and heating your cabin, there's a question brought up on that. You're going to get cabin heat. Your engine, the radiator just won't let the thermostat open very much, and the coolant will stay cycled through the engine, so it should stay warm theoretically. Filled it up with, of course, the Peak universal fluid, and that, of course, is the long life extended stuff, and everything went pretty good. I took the air cleaner off and took the air box out to get to the thermostat, of course, in order to get to that last bottom bolt, which is a son of a gun. So again, I think it was, what was it, a 8mm or something like that. So do that, get everything taken out and put the new thermostat in there. It's very simple, and it, of course, save you a lot of time. But as with everything I've done today, I do have the coolant changed out of the new thermostat after 170,000 miles of use, so I think I'm good for about another 50, 60, another year, and I'll do this all over again. The fans seem to be working. I, of course, am uncertain of them, and I may or may not end up changing them depending how they keep acting up. But so far they are doing what they're supposed to do. That's it, folks. This is MACTFORDEDGE Ford Edge, and of course this is how you do a coolant change on the floor with a creeper, with a jack stand and jack. Okay, no machines this time. And of course I did the bonus of the thermostat change. My feet hit the floor today, folks, and I'm having a great day. It's really cold outside. That's why I like this garage. And of course, make sure, if you feel like it, go to that fan funding button and pop a couple bucks on there to help me and support this channel, and of course pay for the equipment such as cameras and things that I do use, and the microphones and all that stuff to help make it a better quality situation. But remember, Mercy Girl, she always has something to say, and I do want you all to enjoy this music that follows on, because my feet hit the floor again, and I'm having a great day. And the donut was good.
Thank you for watching MACT's videos, and remember to like and subscribe. This is a Mercy Girl production.